Okay, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gents, got something I wanted to bring to somebody's attention, and hopefully somebody's paying attention, because if you're not paying attention to this, you won't get it. What are they gonna get? They're gonna get it. What's it? I don't know. You have to wait till I get to it. But if we don't know what it is, how can we sit up there and understand it? Oh, okay. Well, here's the point. Have you ever heard the phrase that we will apprehend the suspect and see to it that he is brought to justice? The police are searching for the suspect so that they may bring him to justice. Who the f is justice? And why are they bringing somebody to her? That's right. They are telling you what they are doing. Is that really what that means? I don't know. But it makes you wonder. Are you really serious? No, I'm very serious. Every time you hear the phrase that they're going to bring someone to justice, let's go ahead. The murderer brought to justice. Okay? Bring to justice. Idioms. Okay. Thank you for using the free dictionary. Nobody asked you. You don't have to thank me, because I ain't going to be using it that often. All right. Bring one to justice, to punish one for a crime committed. Now, I want you guys to pay attention. To punish someone for a crime, that's what they're saying it means to bring someone to justice. Okay? And we'll say, police officer swore she would not rest until she had brought the killer to justice. Who the f is justice? And why are they bringing someone to her? Years later, the rapist was found out and finally brought to justice. You have to go stand before justice. Who is justice? So watch this so that you all get it, so that you'll know they're bringing you to a person. A-D-Y. We're just going to ask the sweet little lady, Lady Justice. Now, there's a Facebook page called Lady Justice. Ain't that something sweet? That is so special they just named the Facebook page after her. But that's not the real Lady Justice. That's one of them people playing on a word. Sorry, this screen thing, this touch screen thing. And so hopefully it'll let me scroll back up. Now we got Lady Justice. We gonna look for some jizz. Because we need to see Lady Justice. Now, let me explain to you guys about Lady Justice, because some of you guys just don't know. See, the original Lady Justice is a hoe. Now, I'm telling you the facts. She is the goddess Artemis. I know, you didn't know. Do your research. She's the goddess Artemis. And she is supposed to be blind. Okay, you see blind here, but she ain't really blind here, but she's supposed to be blind. Lady Justice is supposed to be blind, like right here, can't see. See, I can't see. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? That's Lady Justice. Oh, look at they got him dressed up like a him. That little tweet. Okay, she got them little scales. So you're supposed to be brought to Lady Justice. Who is Lady Justice, ladies and gentlemen? So that you get it, Lady Justice is a false god. She is a pagan god. Yes, they worship this god. Now, they may not actively worship her in the sense that they are bowing down to her statue and things like that, but this is the foundation for their system. I'm going to prove it to you. Give me 1 second. Okay, here you go. Now, these are just some of the pictures, just going to show you. They are not justice, them girl justices. But just want to show you that this is a long-standing thing. It didn't just come up lately. Now, what I want you all to pay attention to when I say she's a hoe, notice how on the older images of her, her breastises are highlighted. You don't believe me? Just take a look. Her breastises are accentuated. I didn't create this. I didn't make this up. This is their junk. She's the great goddess Artemisia. See, look at this picture right here. Okay, they're not trying to hide nothing. They make sure that you see that she ain't got nothing covering up here. Okay? This is She's not the sex god. That's the goddess Esther, where we get Easter from. Oh, come on now. You guys know that all these holidays are in worship of some god? Like I told you, wait till February 21st. Just do your research on February 21st. I can't tell you what February 21st, the meaning it has. But I know that they made it President's Day. I know that they created the corporation on that date. Why February 21st? But nobody realizes why, as a nation, people celebrate it. Well, they don't celebrate it. Yes, they actually do. They actually recognize it. It actually has some significance because all government buildings are closed on that day. It is called a holy day. No, it's called a holiday. Take the word holly and pronounce it the correct way. Get rid of that Y and put back the I that was there originally, and you'll see it. I mean, get rid of the I and put there the Y, and you'll see that it is holy day. Because that's what it was originally when kings would celebrate their own birthdays, or where they would declare a day this or declare a fast or anything like that. That's the thing they do. Now look at that goddess Justice. She's something else, ain't she? All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out what's going on with this. He who serves the goddess Justice. The legal definition of justice. Let's find out what justice really means. Because it's got to have a definition. So let's see. Oh, we back to that dictionary thing. They ain't saying thank you. They just said thank you. Now, justice. The proper administration of the law. The fair and equitable treatment of all individuals under the law. The title given to certain judges, such as federal and state Supreme Court judges. Now, why are they called justices? Ladies and gentlemen, they didn't create the justice word. They created another justice word. Let's show you. You guys ready to see? This justice is capitalized. Now, of course, we know that that's for a reason. But do you notice this justice, given the same definition, not capitalized? If you look at when they say justice in their documents, it's not capitalized except when they refer to it as a department of justice. Okay? But let's just go ahead and read. A scheme or system of law in which every person receives his or her or its due from the system, including all rights, both natural and legal. One problem is that attorneys, judges, and legislatures often get caught up more in procedure than in achieving justice for all. The adage, justice delayed is justice denied, applies to the burdensome procedures lacking of sufficient courts and clogging of the system with meritless cases. Anyway, let's get back to the administration of justice so that we can let you guys know exactly what's going on. Let's get it from the Department of Defense. See? Department of Justice. The Department of Justice. And on their official seal, they have a motto. Motto. Quae pro domina justita secuta. Basically, this is standing for he who serves the Lady Justice. Now, guess what they've said? See, this is on the seal for the government, and somebody asked them, what does this mean in English? So their response was, pay attention, the motto refers, it may come to no surprise to you that you are not the first to ask such a question, and that various efforts, none entirely successful, have been undertaken in the past to arrive at definitive answers. Basically what they're saying is they don't know. The primary difficulty in ascertaining the precise meaning of the motto comes from the fact that it is not known exactly when the original version of the department's seal itself was adopted. Isn't that interesting? Nor is it known when the motto first appeared on the seal. Isn't that interesting? The act initially created the office of the Attorney General. The act that initially created the office of the Attorney General was the Article 3. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Article 3 created the Attorney General's office. You don't believe me? Go ahead and read it. It's called the Judiciary Act. Judiciary Act of 1789, September 24th, 1789 is Article 3. Go take a look at it and see if that doesn't create the Attorney General's office. The ancestor of the Department of Justice made no provisions for a seal for the office. The 1849 Act of Authenticating Records, which provide, nobody cares for what that says, corrected this omission by providing statutory authority for a seal for the Attorney General's office. Pursuant to this act, a seal supposed to incorporate a Great Seal of the United States was adopted. Well, when was it adopted? You said nobody knows where it came from. Of course, it came from that adaptation. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. When they do a seal or something like that, they always document the authority and the approval for such a seal because it is an official seal. That's why they have an official seal act. They didn't just create, even back then, they didn't just create seals just to be creating seals. Oh, I know a Navy seal. I know a walrus. Hold on one second. I was sitting up here thinking to myself, and I said self, and myself said yeah. And I said self, and it said yeah. I said self, and it said, I'm not going to play this game with you. I said, all right, I'm just kidding, self. I said, self, you know what's going on? I'm sitting up here wondering why it is that people are brought to justice. And then I just like keyed in on the phrase, brought to justice, like you brought something to fruition. So when they say brought to justice, the phrase actually sounds like they're referring to something in a pronoun or noun sense of the word. So they brought someone to justice, and justice was done. Okay, let justice be done, though the heavens fall. Pay attention. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. You guys know about that motto? Let's type that in and let's see what we get. I'm gonna pause y'all for a second while I type. I put it in quotations. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. The maxim signifies the belief that justice must be realized regardless of the consequences. Interesting. Well, how do you realize justice? And pay attention. This maxim incorporates the phrase, the heavens. Well, if you knew anything, and pay attention, you're going to learn a lot right now. As a matter of fact, no, we got to go there. So you all hold on one second. Now, there are a couple of things that we're going to bring out here. The first thing is that justice is, although we say it in English, it's actually a Greek word, and it's derived from the word dyke. Whereas, like I said, she's a hoe. Okay? Where do you think they came up with the word dyke for, people? Just go ahead and do. Oh no, I did the etymology and it says it came because of, the creeks and things like that. It didn't say anything about no hoe named Justice. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. The Greek term justice here is dyke. It may refer to a goddess who personifies avenging justice or to the concept of justice. In Greek mythology, Dyke was the name of the goddess of justice. It's also Lady Diana. Okay? You notice she's called Lady Di. I'm not making this up, people. Lady Di is justice. It was thought that she had oversight over human affairs and reported undisclosed injustices to Zeus so that the guilty would be punished, brought to justice. The inhabitants of Malta may have thought that, although he had survived the shipwreck, Paul was now overtaken by some sort of divine justice and punished by means of a snake. That was when he was on the boat and the viper bit him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, give me one more second because I got to show you why it is let justice be done though the heavens fall. Why that phrase? I'm going to read this story. You guys take it for what it is. This is again Paul and they're coming from... Uh-oh, gotta pause you 1 second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I had to take that call. Now, that was about a 35-minute call. Had to take it, and I actually enjoyed that call. I needed that particular call that just happened because it's been a very, very, very stressful night. And so that call right there helped to relieve some of the stress. Let's talk about this. Now, let you guys know what's going on. Paul is on a quote-unquote preaching tour. Okay, now... he is going back to Jerusalem, but on his way back to Jerusalem, he has to travel through the country of Ephesus. Okay? So as he's traveling through the country of Ephesus, they run into this situation. We're going to start at verse number 23. This is Acts, the book of Acts of the Apostles. And this is, I don't know what chapter this is. I got to do this because I got to see this corner. 19 verse 24. So Acts, the 19th chapter, verse 23 through 36 or something like that. It says, at that time, quite a disturbance arose concerning the way. Christians used to be called the way. Okay? Because Jesus, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and this was the way to life, and this is the way to serve God. So they were called the way. Those of you who didn't know that. They used to be called the way. And if you want to know more about that, you can look up any one of these scriptures. Okay? It is the 9th chapter where it speaks about by divine providence they were called Christians. Okay. Just so that you know. Okay. For a man named Demetrius, a silversmith who made silver shrines of Artemis, brought considerable profits to the craftsmen. He gathered them and others who worked at such things and said, men, you all know that from this business comes our prosperity. Now you see and hear how, not only in Ephesus, but in nearly all of the province of Asia, this Paul has persuaded a considerable crowd to turn them to another opinion, saying that the gods made by hands are not really gods. Moreover, the danger exists not only that this business of ours will come into disrepute, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis will be viewed as nothing. And she who is worshipped in the whole province of Asia and the inhabitants of the earth will be deprived of her magnificence. Hearing this and becoming full of anger, the men began crying out, great is Artemis of the Ephesians. Now, what you all don't know, this great is Artemis of the Ephesians, these men cried this out for hours. Okay, verse 29. Come on, 29. It won't let me stop at 29. There you go. So the city became filled with confusion, and altogether they rushed into the theater. They dragged out along with them Gaius and Aristarchus, the Macedonians, traveling companions of Paul, because they weren't from Ephesus, they were Macedonians. For his part, Paul was willing to go outside. Let me out of here. I'll go out. I'm not running from these morons. Anyway, Paul was willing to go outside, or to go inside to the people, but the disciples would not permit him. Even some of the commissioners of the festivals and the games who were friendly with him sent word to him, pleading with him not to risk going into the theater. Some were in fact crying out one thing and others something else, for the assembly was in confusion. The majority of them did not know the reason why they had come together. So they brought Alexander out of the crowd, the Jews shoving him forward. And Alexander motioned with his hand and wanted to make a defense to the people, but they recognized that he was a Jew. Them Jews, I'm telling you, they all started shouting in unison for about 2 hours. Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. Can you imagine the scene? Well, why are we talking about this? Because we live in an arena where individuals are shouting this from the courts. You see it on the Supreme Court. You see it on every single court. You'll even hear them talk about trusting in God. And you didn't know what God they were talking about, did you? Well, let's continue to make sure you understand what goddess we're talking about and why heaven is used, though the heavens fall. When the city recorder, see, that's where you get the court recorder, the county recorder. Interesting. When the city recorder had finally quieted the crowd, he said, "Men of Ephesus, who really is there among men who does not know that the city of the Ephesians is the temple keeper of the great Artemis and of the image that fell from heaven?" Excuse me? What image that fell from heaven? Anybody know about an image falling from heaven? Hold on. "Since these things are indisputable, you should keep calm and not act rashly. For you have brought these men here who are neither robbers of the temples nor blasphemers of our goddess. So if Demetrius and the craftsmen with him do have a case against someone, court days are held and there are proconsuls. Let them bring charges against one another." So do you understand the system of government we have here? Now these were Grecian courts. They were under Roman rule, but they were still Grecian courts. They still were pagan in their heritage. As you saw, the whole city, including the court, worshiped this particular goddess. And it speaks about how these men weren't robbers of the temples nor blasphemers of the goddess. So if they were, it says, "And if you are searching for anything beyond that, it must be decided in a regular assembly, for we are really in danger of being charged with sedition over today's affairs, since there is no grounds we could present as a reason for this disorderly mob." And then they dispersed the assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, who is it among mankind who does not know about the image of Artemis that fell from the heavens and that it was kept in Ephesus? Who doesn't know this? I know, but it's okay. The rest of the world doesn't know this. But this is what they believed. Now, how did that image fall from heaven? Did it actually fall from heaven? Was there somebody who actually witnessed it, or was there a group of people who brought the image there somehow in the middle of the night in an area where people didn't visit? You feel me? Turning everybody away while they moved this image there. Placed it there and then, dug holes and made it look like there was a really big crater impact and went and told everybody this thing fell from heaven. We saw it. Or did it actually fall from the heavens? Don't know. But that was the belief of those people back then. And Artemis, let's see if we can, because I did that way. Give me 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, I did not know this what I'm about to read to you. Part of it I knew, but the rest of it I didn't know. Take a listen to this. Artemis. Let's have the computer tell you.
Artemis.
Okay. A Greek virgin goddess of hunting. Now, this is the Greek goddess, not the Ephesians goddess. This is two different goddesses. The Greek virgin goddess of hunting, also known as Artemis. She was identified by the Romans with Diana. Okay, that's why Lady Diana, Princess Di. This was Roman period people that they were. Ephesians was a Roman providence. Equipped with a bow and arrow, this Artemis is depicted as pursuing game, animals, especially stags. Although the Greeks identified the Ephesians Artemis as their own Artemis, the Artemis of Ephesus, who was worshipped in cities throughout Asia Minor, has little in common with the Greek deity of classical mythology. It's not the same Artemis. Okay, that's the first thing. The Ephesians Artemis, whom we're talking about today, the goddess of justice, was a fertility goddess, why the breastesses represented as being adorned with what have variously been identified as multiple breastomuses, eggs, and the testicles of sacrificed bulls. The mummy-like lower half of her body is decorated in various symbols and animals. Now, Artemis was worshipped at Ephesus, has been closely connected with the prominent goddesses of other peoples, and it has been suggested that they have a common origin. Now, we're not going to talk about all of these different blah, 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 but this is just to let you guys know that this is where things come from. Greek mythology got its start from someplace and all these other people, but when you hear about them saying how she fell from the sky, yeah. So let's get back to our discussion because it is necessary. Let's see, we are right here. Again, let justice be done though the heavens fall, because justice fell from the sky. The goddess Artemis fell from the sky. So if justice is not done, there might be some type of reprisal or punishment coming from the sky. Oh, look at that. What does this statement mean? What does it mean to have the heavens fall? The question took me all the way back to the time of Alexander the Great. Alexander, okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to take you all the way back to Alexander the Great. This is going to take you to the goddess of justice, because Alexander the Great, his goddess wasn't the goddess of justice that's being depicted here. However, remember, the Grecians, we call it Greek mythology, but mythology did not start with the Greeks. We just call it that. Mythology comes from way before the Greeks. As a matter of fact, Babylonians and Egyptians were more so into mythology than anything else. Again, this is the model for the Department of Justice. You'll see it on their website. Where is that Department of Justice website? Department of Justice, right here. Okay, this is where you will see the model. They say that they don't know where the model came from, when it got its start, and how it came about, but that is, for the most part, a LIE. There it is right here. So let's scroll up, if it'll let me. See it right there? Right there in front of us, right that there. All right, so the seal was adopted by the Attorney General, consistent with the United States shield, with stars improperly on the chief. Yeah, because the chief had stars, and the chief should not have had stars, but they say improperly. No, and they put stars on the chief on purpose. From it, an eagle rising with outstretched wings, bearing in the right talons an olive branch, and in the left talons arrows, beneath which a semicircle with the motto, Quae pro domina justitia sequita. And in the other circle, the Attorney General's office brings, in fact, identical to the present 1904 seal of the department, adopted in 1872, except that in the latter, the words Department of Justice appeared in the outer circle, in place of the Attorney General's office. Okay, what does this mean? They say they didn't know where the motto came from. But we do know where the motto came from. It tells you right here. It tells you the year. It tells you the motto was the motto, he who serves the goddess justice. Okay, then it says, to correct the more serious errors. Why? Because of them fighting with the Indians. They couldn't have a chief with stars. Why would they put stars on a chief? Why would the flag have stars on it to begin with? Hold on. Not gonna tell you the research. You do the research. But why would there be stars on a flag? Why would the generals and chiefs have stars on their lapels? Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why stars are involved is because man worshipped the stars. And they believe that's where the oversight or the power came from. Remember, many of them said that they were carrying out the duties of God. And since God lived in the heavens, and because that's where the stars were, technically the universe is underneath heaven, but anyway, thus the stars. Okay, now, they say they wanted to correct some errors. So let's see if we can find out what errors they wanted to correct. I'm going to have to scroll. Uh-oh, don't want to scroll too far down. All right, we're going to go. Come on. I just want to read this section right here. Okay, just right here. No more. To correct more serious error, the department's original 1872 seal, those having to do with the devices on the shield itself, but not those relating to the position of the eagle, the president altered the department's seal on April 27, 1934. Really? Right after that wonderful little New Deal. On recommendation of the Attorney General by ordering the following blazon for the seal. On the shield, paleways, the 13 pieces, organ, and ghouls, and Chief Azure, an eagle rising and standing in the middle of the shield, holding in his dexter talon an olive branch consisting of 13 leaves. Why 13? The 13 colonies, and berries, and in his sister talon 13 arrows, all proper, and blah blah blah. Now hold on. In an arc below the device, the motto, "He who serves the goddess justice," on an amulet surrounding this device with the words Department of Justice. But hold on one second. They say they don't know where the motto came from. They literally say that at the top of this document they don't know where the motto came from, but they give you the information. He who serves the goddess justice. So whenever somebody tells you they're going to bring somebody to justice, they're bringing somebody to justice. They're saying they need her to decide whether a person is guilty or not. You guys know where this is, don't you? Okay? Look, the reason why she carries a sword, because you have to go to the book of Romans, where it talks about being obedient to the superior authorities. Because he says it is no wonder why they carry a sword. Okay? And remember, she's supposed to be blind. But she sees. She's supposed to be deaf, but she hears. I'm not even going to talk about her being stupid, but she's supposed not to speak. But the judges act as a medium. Now, everybody done told everyone about how the judges wear black because those are priestly robes. Who do you think they're acting priestly for? Who do you think they're serving as a priest for? Now, I've shown videos in the past because it's not my first conversation about this Lady Justice. And like I said, I was just sitting up here thinking today, and I don't see the one that has the 100 breasts. Okay? Oh, but I did Lady Justice. I didn't do Artemis. Okay, let's do that. And I keep messing up on Artemis, so I'm going to have to go here and copy. I did that. Oh, no, I did an A. That was my problem. Yeah, I did an A and not an E for Artemis. So that's why it told me, oh, no. Hold on. And then we're going to chit-chat about something that I discovered. Oh, that's right. The Young Justice League with the DC Comics. They have a character in there, and this is her. Her name is Artemis. And so that's why that's been on my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys may not understand, but I was sitting up there thinking about Justice and Artemis because I've been watching Young Justice League. I actually downloaded seasons 1, 2, and now they're in season 3. And I've actually watched the ones that didn't have the sorcery junk because I can't stand that stuff. But anyway, I've been watching it, and I'm actually impressed with the Young Justice League. It filled in a lot of blanks because, see, I didn't know about Kid Flash until I was watching the TV series Flash. And I kind of hate it. Like, what the... You know, what the issue with Kid Flash. I didn't know who he was, and I'm like, that's stupid. You call him Kid Flash? That's dumb. You know, and so when they did the TV series, I'm like, they're just trying to put in another actor into the show. And then guess what? Then I saw this series, and I see that, no, they didn't do that for that show, that this was a character that they had previously created. And I was, okay, that makes sense. Now do you guys see? And if you notice, she has, and here she has a bow, an arrow. And do you see how she's got the, what do they call this? Dang it was right there. Sorry, I'm really tired, and so a stag. That's what it is, a stag. Now remember, pursuing game. That's why she has the bow and arrow, and especially a stag. So this is the having her with the horn of a stag. Okay, all three, and you can see they're pretty much the same person, girdle, but you see the chest is accentuated, but not accentuated. But here, okay, and if this is not a guy, hold on, let me expand that picture and tell me that don't look like no guy. Okay, my bad. And if that don't look like a guy to you, and then you got some taste, y'all. You need to hold on to that stuff and never let it go. Gotta wait for my screen to come back on. So give me 1 second, and we're gonna continue. So as I said, this is a lot of the older images. You'll see her. She'll either be having eggs or breastises, and the bow, the arrow, and in our modern day, the sword. Why? Because she was the goddess of hunting. So that's why you see the bow and arrow. But then she became the goddess of enforcement. Okay, of punishment. And they already had gods of this and that, but she became the goddess of that. Because each one of the gods took on their own role. Sorry, I'm waiting for my computer to catch up because system resources. But as you see, most of them have her with some type of animals somewhere nearby and around. And you saw the other one up there who was lightly clad in her dress. And the reason why, oh, by the way, you see I go to a lot of sites, and you know some of these sites have those advertisements. And the advertisement isn't all that great. See, here's the one with the breastises, and you'll see her, and they'll be having eggs and other things around her. This is how they worshipped her. The great goddess Artemis. Okay, so now you know when they're talking about bringing someone to justice, now you understand what they mean by you're going to be held to justice. Talking about you're going to be held to account. No. And here's the problem. Many people are going to go into court and they're going to start repeating some of this stuff, and they don't understand, and that's going to be their biggest deal. You cannot, because most of the judges don't even realize this. Okay? Hey, you know what? That picture that I just saw with the woman and having the animal, and it was a modern picture, there she is down here. Come on now. This one right here. Right here. She has no idea, because a stag is a deer, people. She has no idea what she's taking a picture for. She has no idea the imagery that she's displaying when she's taking that picture. She's just taking that picture and they're paying her for it. But she has no idea why she's dressed the way she's dressed. Because they don't tell people. These guys be sitting up there showing those little OK signs or the 666 sign. They have no idea why they're doing that. They're just doing it because they're telling them, okay, we want you to position your hand this way. We want you to sit this way. We want you to stand that way. Especially the guys who take the pictures. You'll see it in videos and magazines where guys will be sitting down, their legs will be wide open, they'll be leaning forward with their legs wide open. They don't get the symmetry that's taking place there because they have no idea. But like I said, this goddess is a hoe. That's why she's got all the breast emesis. And that's the whole depiction of her. Because she's the goddess of fertility. Now remember, the Greeks had their goddess of fertility. She's not the same goddess. She is not Esther. But this was the Ephesians god, whom they invented, whom they created, whom they manifest by saying that her image fell from the sky. Well, what image fell from the sky? Nobody, I don't think anybody to this day has a picture of that image. Okay, so now that we started this thing out and we done went so many different ways, this was all about understanding where you are. Now what can you do once you understand you're in this type of an arena where this is how the organization was established? We're not there to give them a history lesson. We're there to do exactly what I told the court to do. They basically told me something and I said, okay, prove it. Literally, I just prove it. Show me the law. You know, because somebody was trying to hand me some papers, told me I had to take it. Okay, show me the law. Don't just sit up here and open your mouth and close it. No, show me the law. If you show me the law, I ain't got no problem. I will comply with the law. Show me the law. Of course, nobody said anything. Nobody argued with me. Ladies and gentlemen, I went to a court hearing where they were just them and me. And guess what? Not a single person challenged a single thing I said. When I told them what the law said, and then I brought my computer and I read it to them from the website, not a single one, not a single person challenged a single thing I said. My thing is, everything I talk about, I can prove. I don't bring up anything I don't already know the answer to. I don't ask any questions I don't already know the answer to. Sorry, I can't ask a question about something I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. How can you ask a question about something you have no knowledge of? That sounds stupid. I'm going to ask a question about, trigonometry. How can I ask a question about trigonometry when I don't understand the first aspect of trigonometry? I don't understand what branch of math trigonometry is. When I found out that algebra is the Arabic form of math, when I found out that, I'm thinking, wait a minute. So algebra is not different from your arithmetic and your divisions and your adding and your subtracting. And it is not. It is just math done in a different language. So, hey, those of you who got algebra, that means you're learning the Arabic way of mathematics. They explain that to you when you first go through algebra. But the problem is, once you tell my mind something like that, the first thing I'm going to say is, why would I want to do math in Arabic? Why would I want to do math in Hebrew? Why would I want to do math in the Zimbabwean language? It don't make no sense. So no, I'm not going to waste my time on this stuff. And that is the thing. The basic, my favorite, I think my favorite subjects were math, history, and definitely math and history. I like biology too, but math and history were my favorites. And math was where I excelled. But when it came to logic, I'm not learning another language. I'm not going to sit up here and learn how to do math in another language. How's that going to benefit me out there in the real world? Ladies and gentlemen, please understand, to this day, I've not had to do any arithmetic, divisions, or anything else in a foreign language. And you notice today, in our day, when I was going through school, back in, when the roads were still made out of dirt, and we still rode the horse and buggies, We had pen and paper and pencils and stuff that we wrote with in class. We didn't have these little gadgets and these little computers and these little tablets and phablets and mablets and phones and tic-tac-toes and all. We didn't have none of that stuff. We had to write everything by hand. And then they came out with this. I remember when they came out with the little calculators. Them things was expensive at first. But when they came out and you can go to the store and just buy one for $5, that was all right. I had me a calculator, a couple of them. But you didn't really need it. Well, now nobody has to do any math on paper. Everybody just pulls out whatever electronic device and they do the math in that. Google, how much is 4 plus 85,465,000,000? They'll ask the stupid computer. They don't have to do the math. Because that's where we are now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've taken up your time explaining about justice, but I figured you should be aware of history and what's going on. Okay? When the next time somebody says, "I will see to it that he is brought to justice," you'll know what justice they're talking about. Why would you want to be brought to stand before a foreign god? Again, those of you who want to go into these arenas and argue with them about their foreign god, you try it. I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You cannot go in and take somebody's candy. Okay? They don't appreciate it. Now, what do I mean? Well, as a Jehovah's Witness, I go and knock on somebody's door and I say, "Hey, how you doing? We're just here in your neighborhood asking some questions. And I got a question I'd like to ask, and if you just give me a moment, here's my question." And I ask my question. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't bring about a question that's controversial. I can't bring about a question that's going to challenge that person's beliefs or religion. Because challenging somebody's belief or religion is like going up to a 5-year-old kid and snatching that candy out of his hand. You know, that sucker that he has been waiting for all day, that he took off that wrapper and he took it off so gently and he peeled off every layer of that wrapper and he took the wrapper and he folded it up next to him and set it next to him, and he holds that lollipop in his hand and his mouth is salivating and he's, oh man, and he takes that first lick, and before he can get the last portion of his tongue to make contact, you come and snatch it out of his hand. I don't care if he's 3 years old or 8 years old or 12 years old. And you are 18 feet tall, weighing 500 pounds, he will still try to fight you for taking his candy out of his hand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot go into their arena and snatch their candy by telling them, "I know how your system works. This is the way your system works. This is what you people are doing." You can't do that. You have to do what I do. You have to ask questions. For instance, in the past I've questioned police officers, and what I would ask them is, do they have a W-2 or W-4 form? And they would say yes, that they had to fill out either a W-2 or W-4 when they were employed with their employer, because they would announce that they are law enforcement. I had an officer tell me he did not know the difference between a law enforcement officer and a peace officer. He did not know there was a difference. Interesting, ain't it? Well, the reason why I get them to do that is because this highlights that they work for a corporation. But wait a minute. If they work for a corporation, now I get the challenge of whether or not that corporation has the authority under the Constitution to operate as law enforcement, or whether they're impersonating a government official. Oops. There's no way out of that, because we get to pull the official records for the organization to show that they're a private corporation and that they are not government. Oops. That takes away that individual's authority for which they claim they were operating, which means they operated in a lie, which means anything that they say is inadmissible. Shh, don't tell nobody. Little simple techniques. And you do it all without challenging anything. The questions were simple. The questions are simple. Who are you employed with? They'll say it. Okay, how long have you been working at that location? They'll say it. And do you normally operate in what capacity? Either a peace officer capacity or a code enforcement capacity. And if it was an arrest that took place with you, what capacity were you in when you conducted the arrest? Your peace officer capacity or your law enforcement capacity? See, they don't understand that an enforcement officer is one who enforces codes. Can't have a code enforcer because they are not officers of the government. They are officers of the corporation. Because remember, whenever a court is enforcing or a judge is enforcing a statute, they do not possess any judicial power. Why? Because the fundamental principles of administrative law is anytime a judge is enforcing a statute, he is prohibited from possessing any portion of the judicial power of the court. It is a fundamental principle of administrative law. This is why you ask these questions. Your questions have to be leading without being leading. Your questions have to be to the point without being to the point. So you ask a question that seems like it's coming from around the corner. And so while they're looking over around that corner, later you bring up, oh no, see, you've already admitted this. And you've already admitted, I did not admit this. Oh yes, you did. When you said you had a W-2 form, that means you work for a private company. Because if you work for the government, you can't be taxed, nor could your wages from the government be taxed. Shh, don't tell nobody. Did you know that? See, if you were a government employee, the government couldn't tax you for your services to the government. Why? Because you're a government employee. You work for the sovereign. But the sovereign can tax me. The sovereign could tax you, but it is not the sovereign who's taxing you. Who's applying the tax? Is it not the Internal Revenue Service, a private corporation? Look at the forms. They're all Internal Revenue Service. It is a technicality. You can get around it if you know the argument. But even if you could work for the government and they could tax you, hold on, wait a minute. Your employer is not the government. Look right there. That's a corporation. They have an EIN number. Go to the IRS website. Remember, they're the ones who supply the EIN numbers. A private corporation is the corporation who supplies EIN numbers, okay? And notice how EIN numbers is provided for corporations. Now, the government is a corporation for municipal purposes. That's what the Act of 1871 says. DC Code, Section 1-101 and 102. So it's created a corporation for municipal purposes. Here is the problem. They can be corporations, but what they cannot be is privately owned. So their official tax records, comprehensive annual financial reports, shows that they're privately owned. It shows who their shareholders are, their stockholders are. It shows they're privately owned. It shows they're not government. That's how you take care of the beast without bringing up any of this stuff. You don't have to sound like you're a loon. You don't have to sound like you're crazy. You just have to know what questions to ask. Keep your cool the entire time. Let them do their little romper room. But your greatest defense, if you ever had a defense, I'm sorry. I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent, and I am not going to participate for fear that any participation on my behalf would be construed as my testifying and offering evidence against my own person, for which I cannot be compelled to do so. Thank you. Have a nice day. Just that simple. You just need to understand. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies and gents, have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good life. Have a good time. I hope this whole issue of justice made sense and it provided at least some information that is beneficial to you in understanding what you're dealing with when you're dealing with it. Goodbye.